Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help. And King of Floors, your vinyl, laminate, and engineered flooring superstore.
Just ahead of Elliotte Friedman and a tidbit from Rick on the CFL. All of our guests today sponsored by Passant Motors, your trusted pre-owned car dealer for nearly 30 years. Check them out online at PassantMotors.com and follow them on Twitter at Passant Motors. Do you have something here?
Oh, no, there was just, I was telling you the Lions are making their coaches and players available today.
You were running around the studio screaming about some sort of announcement.
I told you, Matt Baker, there's a good buddy of ours, Matt with the Lions, the president, Rick Lalashire, Rick Campbell, all the players available today. Big day for the CFL. Good stuff.
Elliotte, any chance you want to leave your job at Hockey Night in Canada? How are you, sir?
Wait a sec. Which one of you would I have to work with? Like, there's a better chance if it's you, Don.
Come on.
Hey, yeah.
Hey, Elliotte. Come on, be careful.
We had a slow first hour, so it might not be any of us. It might be a one-man show.
You guys have squeezed all the juice out of the Canucks. There's nothing for them to do anymore.
You're telling me. Are you hearing anything about the Sedin's announcement? If that's coming soon, anything like that?
I don't know what the timing is there. Like I said, I think it's going to happen. I'd be surprised if it didn't, but I don't know anything about timing.
And what's the latest on? I know you tweeted about this today, but on Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, so what's happened is Carolina has given Dougie Hamilton permission to talk to other teams. And I think you are going to see some teams pursue it. You know, I know that, you know, a couple teams hadn't yet been made aware of it because it just happened yesterday. And I guess there were some phone calls going around today to people who kind of know him a little bit better. I think Philadelphia is going to be there. I think Seattle is going to be there. I'm sure there's going to be lots more. But I think the one thing that Carolina is allowing to do here is that talks broke off between Hamilton and Carolina this year, and maybe this gives Carolina the best opportunity for him to go out there and say, all right, my best offer's here. I mean, I'm not expecting that to happen. I'm sure he'll get something that supersedes that, but you never know until you know, right? So they're giving him the option to go out there and look.
Elliotte, how would you describe his career? Let go by Boston, some interesting moments in Calgary, and now it looks like he's going to be on to a fourth team. How would you describe his career?
You know, I think he's like I hate this whole museum narrative. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't like going there. I think it's kind of silly. But, you know, I think the one thing to say is that, you know, and I hope people don't take this out of context, I think he's just a little different than your typical NHL player. And that doesn't mean he's bad or a bad person or anything like that. I just think he's, you know, wired a little bit differently than your average NHL person. And I think at times that has served him very well in teams. And at other times, it has frustrated teams. He's in phenomenal shape. He's a very smart guy. He's obviously incredibly talented. But, you know, he thinks a little bit differently. And I know in Boston, that frustrated the players. It wasn't just the organization. Some of the players got frustrated with it. And I think in Calgary, there were some of the players who got frustrated with a little bit of that too. In Carolina, I didn't hear about as many issues as that. And I think maybe because it's a bit of a quieter market. And I know there's some people who really think that that's better for him. But I think that's kind of the way it is. I think he thinks a little bit differently. And sometimes that is, it's led to it, like, I don't know if, like, I would say dislike, but I would say there's been disagreements between him and other teammates. And like I said, I don't think it makes him a bad person. I just think you have to recognize he's an incredibly talented guy who thinks a little bit differently.
Elliotte, I want to get back to the Canucks, and a big one for me. You and I have talked about this. Pettersson and Hughes deals. What's the latest?
You know, I think the Pettersson one I think we all kind of think that one's going to get done around a 3-year term. And I think I've heard the same thing that you've been reporting, Rick, that they are grinding away at it, and there is a reason for optimism, but nothing is done until it's done. I think the Hughes thing has been a bit more of a challenge to kind of figure out because I don't think they're necessarily talking about the same term as Pettersson, because Hughes' status is a little bit different. And also because, the other thing too is it's a great time to be a defenseman in this league. I'm just writing something today that the guys who are really going to hit it big this summer, I think with the way the playoffs has gone, the fact that all 4 of these teams standing still have deep blue lines that can beat you by playing a hard game or can beat you by playing a more skill game, but they're deep and they're very versatile. I think defensemen are going to do very well this offseason. I think that complicates things a bit. I just think that the term is going to be a little bit different, and I think that's made it a bit more of a challenge, although I don't expect it to be. I don't think it's not going to get done. I just think it's a bit more challenging than Pettersson's deal because there's so many deals for Pettersson, whether it's Point or it's Barzell, that are kind of in the same area.
We got you broke the Dougie Hamilton today. Seth Jones, you broke that as well. Any other this looks like it is going to be an incredible free agency coming up, Elliotte. There's some big names that are going to be out there changing teams.
Well, I don't think Ovechkin will. I think Ovechkin stays. But I do think, and the other thing too is, I think, Rick, there's, somebody told me that there's a lot of very quiet, I don't know if there's, trade demands, but there's a lot of understanding that circumstances have to change. I think Buffalo, that is one where circumstances are going to change, and there's going to be a few guys who go from there. Eichel, Reinhart, probably Ristolainen. I think Philly, after the year they've had this year, I think they could do some really interesting things. Minnesota, they have an expansion issue. So what are they going to do there to handle that expansion issue? A guy like Phil Kessel, I think is going to be available to be moved at some point. I just think, Rick, there's going to be a lot of players out there. Calgary with Mark Giordano, who potentially could be unprotected. I just think that there's a lot of really good players out there who, whether the team, because of an expansion issue, or the player feels it's time for a change of scenery, I think there's going to be a lot of talk out there. And I think Ron Francis, with the flexibility he's going to have with no roster, is going to be the key to doing a lot of it.
Eichel, Buffalo, you mentioned him. More than any other rumor that's out there, any report that's out there, is that going to happen, Elliotte?
I do believe so. I do believe he's going to get traded. I think the Sabres want to do it. I think Eichel wants to do it. I just think it's time. It's time for a different trip there. I know they're working on sorting out the medical procedure issue with the Sabres and possibly some other teams. I don't think, for example, other teams have permission to talk to Eichel, but I do think teams have been, with what's been out there in the public domain, I think they've been doing their research into what the situation is. I could definitely see that being a move.
Elliotte, this is going back to last week. What do you know? I'm putting you on the spot here, but what do you know about new Canucks assistant Brad Shaw?
I have to tell you, that was a really good hire. Brad Shaw is a really smart guy. A lot of people really like him. Years ago, when the NHLPA used to do their player poll, they did it in combination with us when we were at CBC for Hockey Night. And the first time we ever did a poll, we asked players to pick who was an assistant that should be a head coach. And Brad Shaw won. This was about 10 years ago.
Wow.
And, he never obviously got that opportunity. But I think it shows you the high level of respect he has. He's a really good teacher. He's a really patient guy. You guys weren't the only ones looking at him. I know Anaheim was looking at him. I think there were others looking at him. Brad Shaw's a guy, he's got a good name. And when Columbus decided not to bring him back, his phone was I guess we don't say ringing anymore, Don. I guess we say buzzing.
Yeah. Yes.
His phone was buzzing quite a bit.
Like Rick's. One more. Islanders Lightning open up yesterday. Islanders win. We're going to stick with coaches here. What's Barry Trotz's gift as a head coach?
People believe him. People trust him. When he was in Nashville, two of the guys they had there were Jordan Tutu and Brian McGrattan, who went through a lot of challenges in their lives. And, Nashville believed in those guys. They said, we're going to get you the help, and you're going to have a role here, and we're going to get you through. And they did that. And I know that kind of went around the league, that, Trotz was a big part of that, and players believed in that he cared about you as a human being. But the other thing, too, is, he has success. He didn't win, obviously, till he got to Washington, but it's hard to win in this league, Don. But at the end of the day, when you treat people well and your teams are consistent, like everybody is empowered. That's what the Islanders told me, is that he shows up the year after they lose Tavares. They admitted they thought they were going to stink. And he comes out there and he says, this is why we're going to be good, because you're going to do this, and that's important. He makes people feel important and empowered, and that's a big deal in this day and age.
Elliotte, Above and Beyond, we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
All right, guys. Rick, you were pretty quiet. What's going on there? You're preparing for your Lions availability?
I'll call you in 5 minutes. I'll call you in an hour.
Elliotte, can I tell you what he was doing? Every single person who texts into our show, he answers them.
Because I'm the people's person, Elliotte. These are the most important people, the viewers, the listeners, not us, Elliotte.
That is true. Thank you. True. I don't argue that.
And Elliotte, I'll call you. Elliotte, I'll call you in an hour. I got something for you.
Okay, I can't wait. My next big scoop. All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Elliotte.